The Tomb has finally released for Black Ops 6 Zombies, and this is by far one of the most divisive maps that we've seen for zombies in quite a long time. Like, it's almost split down the middle when it comes to how many positive and negative opinions I've been seeing. I've been seeing people go as far as to say this is one of the worst maps ever, and then I've also been seeing people say they absolutely love it and they're very happy with it. It is extremely divisive, but I wanted to kind of break down why I think there is so much hate on this map compared to the other Black Ops 6 Zombies experiences. Not all of these points I go through do I agree with personally. I just thought it would be kind of interesting to discuss why I believe the map is getting this level of hate. I spent a few hours doing a lot of research, looking through the comment sections on YouTube videos, TikToks, Twitter, pretty much everywhere, just trying to gauge how many different opinions I see online. And of course, a lot of people are hyperbolic with their opinions all the time. There's plenty of people who are gonna say a map sucks even if they don't actually believe that. So I just have to kind of take the opinions I've been seeing out there at face value and basing what I think are like the main issues the community has with this map off of what I've seen. One of the main things I've been seeing, especially from more casual players, is different comparisons to Origins. A lot of players went into this map expecting Origins 2.0 or something on the level of Origins, not necessarily like a reimagining or a remake, but obviously a more casual player who isn't involved in listening to all the different information delivered about the map to the players, whether it's through the blog post or through other images released online. A lot of players just watched the trailer and that was it, or they saw a quick little TikTok teaser, or all they heard was that the ice staff is returning and they didn't hear anything else. Their first thought is probably going to be, oh, this is going to be some sort of successor to Origins, maybe some sort of reimagining, or maybe it'll just be on the same level of Origins if it's willing to bring back certain elements from the map. Now, this is not something that I personally did because, of course, I was never expecting this to be some sort of Origins successor. I wasn't expecting it to be on the level of Origins because I don't think there's really been a map on the level of Origins in quite a while. But I just didn't really think it was going to go that far. I knew we were only going to be getting the ice staff, and I didn't expect there to be a lot of other things relating to Origins on the map. But of course, I was kind of wrong there because they did have the Origins music being played in a lot of different parts of the experience. But other than that, there's obviously nothing else connecting to Origins. But for a player who is expecting a lot of Origins level things, and they come onto this map, and then the only thing that's actually from Origins is the ice staff, which is exactly the same as the original ice staff. There's really no differences. It's not like, you know, it doesn't have new mechanics or anything like that. It's literally exactly like the ice staff, and it operates exactly the same. And then you have some of the Origins music. So from that player's perspective, they're just going to see that as a downgrade. They're not going to see this as some sort of like better version of Origins or something that's even on the same level. They just see it as a lesser version of Origins, even though it's nothing like Origins. Again, but we're trying to look at through the casual player's perspective, at least for a casual player that likes Origins and played it back in the day. I mean, let's just compare the idea of reimagining something from the past and doing better with it in the newer map. The jet gun on Liberty Falls, that's like the perfect example of it. The jet gun sucked back in Transit, but it was kind of an iconic weapon because of how bad it was. So they brought it back on Liberty Falls and actually made it really, really good. So that was something that people immediately saw as an upgrade. So therefore, their opinion of Liberty Falls ended up being a bit more positive because they saw an element from a prior map that gave them nostalgia to have it back, but it was better. Now, due to the health caps of Black Ops 6 Zombies, you could honestly argue that the ice staff on the Tomb is technically better than the BO2 Origins ice staff. But in terms of like actual power, it doesn't feel that much better, especially when you're playing the earlier rounds, maybe like anything before round 30. The original ice staff was amazing in itself, so you're not really going to sit there and think of it as an upgrade, even though maybe technically it is. And we can even talk about a map like Blood of the Dead, even though people do not like Blood of the Dead more than Mob of the Dead, and actually comparisons to Mob of the Dead was one of the main things people didn't like about Blood of the Dead. But when it comes specifically to the Wonder Weapon and things that were returning from Mob of the Dead, they actually did do a pretty good job of adding upon those systems, because they brought back the acid gat, but instead of just bringing back the acid gat, they also brought in a whole new version of the blunder gat with the magma gat. That was a cool new addition that set the map apart from Blood of the Dead. So I think inevitably that was the main issue here with just bringing the ice staff. Like, either do all 4 of the ice staffs or don't do just one. You know, maybe do a whole new staff. They could have done the Staff of Ra from Black Ops 4, which was a specialist weapon back in Black Ops 4. They could have brought that back and turned that into a full-on wonder weapon, or maybe just a completely new version of the staff, or maybe some sort of like upgraded version of the staff that combines all 4 of the elements and lets you like swap between them on the go. Like, that would have been a cool new idea that would have felt fresh and different, and I think it would have excited people a little bit more, so the comparisons to Origins wouldn't have been as harsh, because that's one of the main things I've been seeing is constantly people saying, why is there only the ice staff? Why do we not have all 4 of the staffs? And then they're just making a bunch of other comparisons to Origins, saying this map isn't nearly on the same level of it, it doesn't have the same depth, it doesn't have the same quality. These comparisons players would be less likely if they at least found a different way to utilize the main wonder weapon. I know that's just one element of the entire map. The wonder weapon is not everything, but I think for a lot of players, it does play a big role in the experience. Another one of the main opinions that I've been seeing is that the map just kind of lacks depth. There really isn't a lot to it. It feels like a much simpler map compared to what people wanted. And this is one that I definitely agree with. That's definitely not something I absolutely love. But as I mentioned before, if this map was intended to just be like a bonus map and we're going to end up having 6 full DLC experiences, then I'm okay with a couple of the DLC maps being a lot simpler, like the Tomb. But as I talked about many times before, that is something they should have been more clear about in the marketing. All they said was a very vague paragraph in regards to comparing the map to Liberty Falls, but their comparison to Liberty Falls was extremely vague and non-specific. They said that it's going to have focus on replayability, a lot of side Easter eggs, and it's going to have a reimagined wonder weapon. That was like the comparison to Liberty Falls. And it also said it was going to feature tighter play spaces. It never said a small map. I'm not sure why everyone was going with the assumption that they said it was a small map like Liberty Falls. They actually didn't say that. They said tighter play spaces. To me, tighter play spaces means more condensed areas, not a smaller overall experience. Like, I would personally consider Voyage of Despair a very tight spaced map. Everything is very condensed within itself. There's a lot of close quarters situations that you get into within Voyage of Despair, but the map is huge. That is not by any means a small map. So I don't think the word tighter spaces was really referring to the map size as a whole. Maybe it was, but if it was, regardless, that wasn't clear enough to the average player. And also, the average player is not reading a Call of Duty blog post. So why would someone go into a DLC 2 experience and immediately assume it's going to be a much simpler map? I also think if the other maps that were intended to be more complex, like Terminus and Citadel, were actually more complex and had more stuff to them, then I think people would have less of an issue with a bonus map not having as much content, because they would say, oh, well, I still have Citadel to go back to. I still have Terminus to go back to and play. Like, for example, people keep comparing this to Black Ops 3. They keep saying, well, at Black Ops 3's life cycle, we only had 3 maps at this point, and only 2 of them were like actual full maps. Like, Drak just came out at the very end of January, early February. But those 2 maps have a lot of depth. There's a lot of stuff to them, and they were very replayable for a long period of time for most players. So if they were to drop like a map in between Drak and Zetsubo that was a much smaller scale experience, kind of similar to the Giant, I don't think anybody would have an issue with that. As long as they were clear about the intent of the map, nobody would care. They would be fine with it. Now, in regards to the Easter egg, I do hear a lot of people critiquing that as well, which I don't think this is coming from like the casual player perspective, because I think we all know that most of the casual players aren't really doing the Easter eggs consistently. But I do see a lot of people critiquing the Easter egg for saying it's too short, and also just saying it's just uninteresting in general. And then the boss fight is probably the thing getting the most amount of criticism. A lot of people do not like this boss fight. They think it is ridiculously hard and kind of annoying to play, and it is a little buggy in a lot of ways. Like, you can easily get one hit down in ways that I just don't think is actually intended. Like, I refuse to believe that they made this boss fight work in a way to where you can actually get one hit down, even if you have full armor and Juggernog, just by one of the boss enemies that it just hits you once. I just don't believe that was like an intended thing. I feel like that probably is a bug, but I do kind of understand where these people are coming from, even though I personally like the boss fight, and I actually like the Easter egg. I don't think it's a bad Easter egg whatsoever. Is it very simple? Yes. Is it not my idea of a perfect Easter egg? It's not even close to my idea of a perfect Easter egg, but for what this map is going for, I do personally enjoy this Easter egg quest. I think it's fun, I think it's replayable, and I think the boss fight is pretty good. I like how hard it is. That is definitely a positive, but they definitely need to fix a couple of things. First of all, the ray gun should be able to deal damage to the Sentinel artifact. Actually, everything should be able to deal damage to it. I don't care if explosives deal less damage, but currently the ray gun and the pack-a-punched pistols do literally 0 damage to the Sentinel artifact, which is just absolutely ridiculous and just shouldn't be the case. I also think they should probably patch out the whole one-hit downs that keep happening. I really do think it's a bug, but if it's not, definitely just adjust that a bit. But I do like the level of difficulty the boss fight is, and I do want them to keep that level of difficulty, because a difficult boss fight is a good thing. A lot of people get so frustrated with zombies Easter eggs to the point where they start just calling it bad and you know, saying that it's poorly designed because they can't complete it, but I don't think there's anything wrong with a boss fight that is really difficult to complete. Now, obviously, it shouldn't give the player that feeling of like this is completely unfair, but I do want it to have at least some level of challenge. So yeah, it might take you like 5 to 10 attempts to beat. That is actually something that I think is great about difficult boss fights. That's what makes it more replayable. That's what makes it last longer. I've beaten this boss fight once, tried it solo 3 more times afterwards, and failed all 3 of those times. And I kind of like that. I think that's cool. And I'm really worried that Treyarch is going to make changes to the boss fight to make it easier, because they've done that many times in the past where they actually nerf bosses because a lot of players were complaining about it. And I just don't want that to happen. I know they really care about having their percentages for who complete the Easter eggs to be as high as possible, which I don't really fully understand, because I feel like if someone's experiencing the boss fight, that should be enough. Their hard work to design the boss has already been experienced by that player. Why do they have to complete it in order to like fulfill that experience? I feel like they've already experienced it, you know what I mean? So I personally don't see the point of making the boss fight easier. Make sure that the rewards for it are actually, you know, rewarding, in the sense that not everyone's going to be able to easily get it. So I definitely think they should keep the challenge of it, just make it more of a fun challenge. And of course, the whole AI problem going on with Black Ops 6 Zombies is also not doing the game any favors. Obviously, the voice actors appear to be on strike. That's at least what I'm presuming based on the fact that they weren't present in the ending cutscene and there wasn't an intro cutscene at all. I definitely think that holds back the cinematic value that this map could have had, and I really hope that eventually they can work out some sort of deal with Activision. Activision just has to do something about it, because I don't know why they feel the need to not give them certain AI protections. I feel like they deserve AI protections. This is definitely something that I think is a valid criticism from pretty much everyone in the community. And the last main criticism I've seen is stuff that has been criticized for the entirety of Black Ops 6 Zombies at this point. A lot of people still don't like the point system. A lot of people don't like the rarity system or any of the Warzone era mechanics in general. They don't like the rarities. They don't like armor. A lot of people are just not happy with that stuff. And I don't think any new map is just going to suddenly change that. So any of these players will just kind of have to hope that they'll make changes for the future games. And I'm kind of included in that. I'm not a big fan of a lot of the game mechanics in Black Ops 6 Zombies. I don't think they're terrible mechanics by any means, but I would prefer to have more classic mechanics almost across the board. And of course, the whole reusing of boss enemies has been criticized for the entirety of BO6 as well, and that is continuing with the Tomb. People are just not happy about seeing so many bosses return again and again and again. It just makes it a little bit less exciting, because getting to fight a brand new boss is pretty exciting, and there really is no new bosses on this map. The Mimic doesn't really count. We technically have seen this before. Even the Shock Mimic was already in MWZ, so it's just not really a map unique thing, and that does kind of hold it back just a little bit. Personally, I am enjoying the map. I do like it for the most part. I don't think it's nearly as bad as a lot of people are saying, but I do have my criticisms. I think if there isn't going to be 6 DLC maps, then this definitely is very, very disappointing of a map, because obviously a main DLC 2 map should be a lot more in depth than this. But in general, I want the other maps that are intended to be more in depth to actually be more in depth. We got to get to that level of depth of BO3 and BO4, and we're just not quite there yet. But BO6 is continuing the trend of every map being pretty fun at launch, and then I'm assuming eventually it's going to fall off kind of quickly, you know, more than most maps out there. Even for Citadel, it kind of fell off fast for me. I'm expecting the same thing to happen with the Tomb. I'm probably not going to be, you know, that inclined to play it past like a week from now. I'm probably going to already be bored of it by then, which is unfortunate, but like I said, it's just kind of how the Zombies formula is, at least in Black Ops 6 and most of the modern era of Zombies. I hope a lot of that changes in the future, and they can iron things out in a way that makes it more replayable for the long term, or maybe they'll add some brand new game modes to kind of spice things up. I'm not exactly sure, but in general, I do think this is a decent map. I do think this is much better than people are giving it credit for, and I think the devs did a lot of hard work, especially with designing the Dark Ether. The Dark Ether looks incredible. The visuals are amazing, and I think they definitely deserve at least a little bit of credit there. So hopefully you guys enjoyed. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section down below. I will see you on my next one. Peace out.